Hello, so I'm Stuart McSkimming, and welcome to the second episode of Virtue and Virtuosity, the weekly podcast that talks to charity leaders about AI adoption with their organizations. Today, I'm sitting here with Ivan Wainewright, who's a veteran from the sector who's seen a lot of major charity projects. Ivan, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me, Stuart. Good to be here.
Thank you. And Ivan, can you just tell us a little bit about your experience in the sector?
Of course. So I'm an independent CRM consultant. The word independent is most important to me. So I have no affiliations with any suppliers or organizations like that. I help charities, non-profits, and the higher education sector review, procure, and implement CRM systems and fundraising databases.
Thank you, Ivan. Now, it might seem a bit strange that I've got Ivan on here when he's a CRM specialist, but the reason I was very keen to get Ivan on as to listen in on one of these interviews is because I believe that with the AI adoption, that there are so many similarities with previous types of projects we've worked on. And he's been quite modest here, but he's worked on more projects in the sector on CRM and Salesforce and Dynamics than anyone else I can think of. He's got a really good understanding of how large charities, medium-sized charities, and higher education, he said, have used and implemented CRM. And so all of those lessons all around implementation, I think, will be useful lessons for us all around AI adoption as well.
Yeah, I hope so. I think as we'll no doubt discuss, so much of it is all about just having the right business case for any technology, and how do you implement any technology at the right time? What's it going to offer the charity in question?
Yeah. So Ivan, hopefully you don't mind sticking around for a bit. I'm going to play the interview we've recorded with Jon Fox from the Alzheimer Society, and if you stick around, we'll have a chat afterwards.
Sounds good.
Hello and welcome. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Jon Fox, the Associate Director of Technology and Infrastructure at the Alzheimer Society. Jon, it's really great to have you on.
Hi there, Stuart. Lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So, Alzheimer's is a very prominent organisation in the media, both in terms of the adverts around awareness, but also in terms of the reports that you see in the news around breakthroughs in the diagnosis and treatment of the condition. Can you tell us a little bit about the organisation?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the Alzheimer Society, where I work, is the UK's largest dementia charity. We are the only dementia charity in the UK to be involved in both research to look for disease modifying treatments for various types of dementia, as well as assistive technologies and innovations to help people who are living with dementia, but also to be involved in the front line in providing support and advice for those people who are living with the condition, either those people who actually are living with dementia or their associated carers and loved ones. All of those people are affected by dementia. We work across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and we help people both through direct services, advisors that actually go out and help people navigate the journey that they're on with dementia, and also navigate some of the health and social care pathways to get them support, but also through advice and help through national services such as our dementia support line and the information on our website. So we do both. We like to say that we do both help and hope for dementia. And as you mentioned, dementia is a massive problem for the UK, for the world. It's now known that dementia is the leading cause of death in the UK, and that of people born today, 1 in 2 people will actually kind of end up experiencing dementia in their lives. So it's a massive health and social care issue for us, which is desperately underfunded in terms of research, in terms of public awareness. And what we're seeking to do is to make dementia a priority in our work, as well as providing that on the ground support. And it's very encouraging to see new drug treatments starting to come through, that may be the thin end of the wedge for real ways that we can treat the devastation that dementia causes.
Yes, it really is encouraging. And that stat around the number of people who will end up with dementia is truly terrifying. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself as well and your background, Jon?
So I've been in the not-for-profit sector now for around about 9 years. I started out actually as an IT trainer. That's how I got into IT. I was a trainer in another small not-for-profit, doing very different things, and then got a job as an IT trainer. Managed to get myself into IT service management, which is where I really kind of grew based on the ITIL framework. And then 2.5 years ago, I moved to the Alzheimer Society in my current role, and I'm the associate director for technology and infrastructure, which in Alzheimer's Society means that I have the IT team, the data team, and the property and facilities team reporting into me.
That's a broad range of experience, Jon, which I think will be really helpful in the coming years, especially around AI. And I think the point around data is that for a long time, I've been saying that organizations need to really make sure that they have well-structured data, because if they're going to get the most out of technology, for example, out of CRM and related technologies, having the data well-structured is the key to really unlocking the benefits there. I guess the jury's a little bit out on AI at the moment, because with Gen AI, is not so much about data. I think the focus will come back to it over time as it's realized that that's needed to underpin a lot of what people are doing. Can you tell me a little bit about how AI is used in Alzheimer's? Do you know how much it's used?
I would say that we are in the foothills of the journey. We are really at the beginning of our journey with AI, and talking with other charities, being part of various different forums across charities. I don't think we're in a massively different position from many other charities, but we are seeking to establish. We have a working group for AI, which is a cross-organizational working group looking to understand where AI is used across the business. We have a separate innovations team that is actually based in our research and influencing directorate, so not in the technology teams, and they've done some investigations into the use of AI across the business. It's very light touch at the moment. I think it's probably more informal than formal. So I think if AI is being used out there, it's mostly people using some of the free AI products, either ChatGPT or the embedded search AI that you can get now in the Edge browser. There are some informal uses of AI going on. We are looking to employ a kind of more formal use is around our helplines. We have two main helplines. One is a customer-facing one, or kind of for beneficiaries, where people can get support and advice on all things dementia. The other is a supporter care helpline, and they both have recently transitioned to a new cloud-based contact center technology, which is the CX1 platform from NICE. And as part of their suite of tools, they have a tool called Enlighten Auto Summary, which is an AI tool which basically does exactly that. It does an auto summary of the call that the agent has just had with somebody, and we're looking to we've got that configured now. We're just about to go into testing of it with our supporter care team. So rather than use it within the dementia support line initially, we're using it within the supporter care team that handles any inquiries from our supporters, be it around kind of increasing, decreasing, changing their gifts to the society, or any kind of questions they've got about joining in with some of our events. They can ring through to this call line, and the module within the CX1 tool will save time for the agent by providing them with that summary of the call. It will listen, transcribe, and then summarize the call back to the agent at the end of the call, saving them time in the write-up. But it also gives the agent some useful kind of context around the call. So it will capture some of the kind of intent that it gets from the call, so that you can actually see what the call was about. You can categorize what the call was about. It will isolate actions that came out of the call and actually kind of pull out any kind of actions agreed within the call, summarize those. It will also look at any key outcomes that the call involved, and then actually provide a measure of customer satisfaction from kind of AI-based sentiment scoring. So as a tool, it has the potential to or to reduce the wrap-up time for an agent in taking the call, in that it presents that transcript immediately, and it then provides us with more categorized and sort of tagged information that we can use then for the management information around what kind of calls we've got, what the sentiment was, what the outcome was, and all those kind of quality and performance measures that we might want to be looking at in terms of the calls that our agents are handling. So I think it's quite exciting. It's a self-contained AI agent within the CX1. We were very keen to make sure that its treatment of the data was very bounded, that it didn't take the data anywhere else to process it, that it kept it within the same boundaries that we'd already signed off within the CX1 tool, and anything that the tool produced was then presented back to the agent for a human interaction, for a human review at the end, to make sure that actually we're not relying on the AI to make any kind of determination or decisions without that the agent actually being able to refine that and edit that at the end before it gets saved into any kind of CRM system.
And that's a great case study, Jon. I think I'm really impressed with the speed that solutions are coming to market and being adopted at the moment. During your description there, you did touch on some of your principles around AI. You mentioned accountability. With accountability, I always think of AI. What would it be like in a RACI matrix? Is it the responsible one? Is it the accountable one? Because we've always typically tried to assign those roles to people. But what if you tried to assign a RACI role to AI? And another thing you mentioned was data privacy, which is really, really important, and making sure that you can track where personal data is flowing around. Critically important anyway with data, but when you get into AI, that's even more important. And the other element around it is explainability, being able to explain in simple terms to stakeholders, to the public, to your customers, to the people who work with your organization, exactly how their data is being used or how you are using AI technologies in a way that people can understand. I think that's really, really important.
Very much so, Stuart. We have a duty of care to the beneficiaries and our supporters to ensure that we are treating their data with due care and respect according to the GDPR UK guidelines, and making sure that actually, we are taking all steps to make sure that any treatment of data is carefully considered. And we're taking the step at the moment. We're trialing this with our supporter care before even using even this kind of summary tool with our dementia support line, because we need to make sure that actually when it comes to very sensitive, very emotive, very highly personal conversations on the dementia support line, that anything we do to kind of analyze or treat that data is done with really kind of due care and attention, because that data is so sensitive. And I think for all charities that's a real challenge to make sure that we are treating data appropriately.
Another principle that you mentioned just there is all around bias, actually. And it's really important, I think, to keep the human in control, especially as you're adopting AI. If you think around GDPR and the rules all around being able to explain what algorithms are doing and how they're being used with personal data, I think that becomes suddenly really, really important when you're using AI. For example, if you're thinking about bias, if you're thinking about the sentiment on a phone call and you've got AI trying to understand what that sentiment is, sometimes the AI could have problems misunderstanding accents or languages, which could lead to bias all around the sentiment analysis. And that's where it becomes really important that you retain that accountability by having an advisor in control.
Absolutely. We are a people-led organization. And our people and their expertise and their knowledge and their professionalism is what we rely on to ensure that the quality of our advice and our analysis is actually kind of on the money. We can't be giving over control of that to an automated system lightly, especially one in kind of the early days. So having the advisor have the ability to review that, make sure that it actually does reflect the sentiment, it does reflect the outcomes and the actions that have been agreed, is so important. And as we all know, generative AI is still in its in its infancy. I mean, it is, you're right, it's absolutely astonishing how quickly products are coming to market. We've taken steps to make sure that this does meet the kind of the data protection and data treatment criteria that we really need, and we are looking to use it in a very sort of circumspect and hopefully sort of less risky way in the first instance, to make sure that actually we're treating it appropriately. And we will take that step with every active deployment of AI or generative AI within the organization.
And the agile approaches all around trialing and piloting things are so important. I've heard that from so many people. When you've got technology that's moving ahead really quickly, you don't want to be making 1, 2, 3 year detailed plans. What you want to be doing is setting yourself up so as you can trial things, you can get benefits quickly, and you can ensure that the business cases are short term, and you're able to adapt as new technologies, new breakthroughs happen with AI. So, talking of those new breakthroughs, I guess, Jon, I'm interested in your hopes and fears for the future around AI.
I think there are, I mean, the ranges and the possibilities for incorporating AI into our everyday working lives are immense. And there are so many different ways that I can see that AI will play a role. I think for Alzheimer's and for dementia research, I think there are some really exciting possibilities around the use of AI in actually kind of early detection, diagnosis. That's not so much the internal IT that I'm really kind of responsible for, but the external uses of AI around spotting patterns in images, for spotting, in blood tests. We're looking at developing more effective mass use early detection blood tests for dementias, to enable that early detection, to allow the disease modifying treatments to be applied early enough in someone's progression with the conditions to make a real difference. And AI could play a real role there. Our director of research and influencing, Fiona Carrick, has written on this recently, blogged about this, about the potential for innovative technologies. And we actually are part of a prize called the Longitude Prize, which is funding innovations in technology, and AI is in there. They're in a mix. There are people pitching AI technology. So I'm excited to see what happens in that outward facing arena. I think AI will become part and parcel of our daily lives. We're just very, very small scale trialing the Microsoft Copilot. So the AI tool along Microsoft 365. We're a Microsoft house generally, by and large. And so there are a small number of us piloting Copilot at the moment. And that has the possibility of applying incremental efficiencies to across the board, across everybody's working life, allowing you quicker access to information, or allowing you to summarize meetings more effectively, or allowing you to capture actions more effectively, allowing you to review documents really very quickly. And so I think those are possibilities. I think we'll see AI in areas such as in the creative space within charities, so the marketing and the fundraising arena, the generation of content potentially. Again, you want to make sure that actually what you're producing doesn't look like homogenized AI production, and lose that spark of human creativity. But in terms of a helper, in terms of an assistant, I can see AI being involved in that area. So there are ranges of places, but we need to make sure that those principles that you were talking about earlier. We're members of a couple of different forums for charities looking at AI at the moment, and there are checklists and there are principles out there that people are seeking to develop, all of which around that kind of the protection of information security, the treatment of your data, all of those things, however we use AI, we've got to make sure that we keep those things in mind and we don't just go with the flow. We don't let ourselves be carried away with any kind of use of AI that then puts that data integrity at risk.
So I guess what we need to think there is that we must make sure that you don't get driven by the technology, that you actually are driven as an organization by what the need is, the business need. Too often the temptation is that you get the technology and you jump in without understanding the business case. And boy, with AI, will that be the temptation for organizations, because there will be this shiny thing that comes along which looks like it does something amazing, and the temptation to just grab it and start using it without really thinking, what is the problem we're trying to solve, will be immense. And I think it's really good the way you're approaching this, Jon.
Absolutely. And pretty much certainly any tech conference you go to at the moment, you're hard pressed to go to a tech conference that doesn't have AI as its central theme. And pretty much any business conference, AI is on the agenda. And it has tremendous possibilities, but there are those risks of getting caught up, and people will make mistakes. It's just a colleague of mine once said, if you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, don't do it with an automated weapon. And AI is the pinnacle of automated weapons because it learns how to shoot you better. I think we just need, we need to be careful with how we put those controls in place and how we go forward. But it's got great possibilities.
It's really interesting what you just said there. I guess for me, there's a concern around the pace that things are going to move, and the people in leadership positions within technology will feel a lot of pressure from a number of different areas, whether they be pressure from leadership teams, pressure from different departments within the organization, pressure from trustees, and there will be immense pressure to start delivering results. But it'll be really important to make sure that you keep on piloting and you keep really in clear sight the ideas around business cases. And from listening to you there, Jon, it really sounds like Alzheimer's has got a good approach here and moving ahead well. I guess the final thing I want to say is, having known Jon and having heard some about some of the things he's doing there, the team at Alzheimer's that I know is an absolutely great team to work for. So if you're a job seeker out there listening to this podcast and thinking about organizations you'd like to work for, always keep an eye out for vacancies in technology. In a variety of the things I do, I always like to plug the great technology teams out there, because they can be really interesting places to work. So anyway, it's been really great to chat to you today, Jon, and thank you so much for spending the time to chat to me, and good luck to Alzheimer's for the future.
Likewise, great to chat. Thanks very much.
So that was really interesting listening to Jon there, talking about the Alzheimer's Society. I got to hear a bit more about the Alzheimer's Society. His case study was quite interesting. Ivan, did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was great. I like the way what they're doing is in starting at a certain level. I thought it was interesting hearing something which is maybe relatively as straightforward as the auto summary of a call on their helpline, but at the same time, and if I bring that back to CRM systems, if that's possible to auto summarize the call, and if that could automatically be attached to the interaction record on a CRM system, fantastic. It saves time. It means when someone goes into the system next time they can see it, and so on and so forth. So aside from the points you were discussing, like bias and so on, which is and sentiments, that's something to think about. But in principle, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I think when I was listening there, I was thinking it's actually quite a straightforward example that Jon's talking about, just really transcription of a call and understanding a little bit about sentiment and summarizing it. But on the other hand, it can be so transformative, something as simple as that, because he talked about reducing the amount of time it takes for an advisor to summarize what's been said and type it in. And I know from projects I've worked on that simple things like that can really make a big difference.
100%, and also it encourages people to use it. At the end of the day, so much of CRM side is about user adoption. How do we get people to use it? And so they've been, I've always been using this old system. Now I've got to suddenly use this scary new one. Well, there was a way that can be helped and improved. that's only going to be a good thing. So yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the other things he mentioned was, I think he said that he could potentially extract the next actions required. So again, with my CRM hat on, wouldn't that be interesting to be able to potentially list, okay, so in 3 months' time, you have to follow up doing this, and in 6 months' time doing that. And again, if that can be programmed into, the CRM solution so we can see that, obviously, as he discussed, maybe a human needs to initially be checking it to make sure of the relevance. But I think, again, it brings it together into not just being an isolated reason for having AI, but it incorporates everything else within the charity business so that it all pulls it into one place.
Yeah, and I've seen some of the Copilot features that have been built into Dynamics 365 and also Salesforce and its Einstein product. They've got some interesting things that they do there, which is similar to what we're talking about here. The one other thing I spotted from chatting to Jon here was that they were being very cautious, which I really liked. They were, even though it was a simple use case, they hadn't developed themselves. They bought it from a supplier, but they were being very cautious in making sure that the advisor retained control of it, and also they were trialing it first with their supporters, where the data would be not so much about vulnerable beneficiaries and the impact would be less if there were mistakes. So really taking a cautious approach, trialing it, and then once they've got success there, looking to then move on to their work with the beneficiaries.
Entirely. I mean, it just brings us back to basics, doesn't it? Hearing you and Jon both mentioned have just the importance of GDPR, which, which we almost take at an everyday level now, but when you've got something like AI, which might challenge it or make us think about that, then yeah, bringing that back to the fundamentals, yeah, absolutely important.
Taking GDPR at an everyday level, I do wonder how many of our listeners have cold sweats about the interface between AI and GDPR. I know that I'm not entirely comfortable there. Please do feel free to comment on this podcast. One of the things I want to do as part of this podcast is really start a conversation. I'd be really interested to hear if you can comment on LinkedIn posts or on podcast platforms about this. Be really fascinated. So, any other thoughts generally on the conversation, Ivan?
So yeah, I think one of the things I found extremely interesting, I think hopefully relevant to everyone, was when you discussed how it was important for any technology adoption to be driven by a business need and not just technology. And yeah, technology can help us. It can help us consider benefits and ideas we may not have thought of before or realized were possible, but it still needs a business case to incorporate that. And I think that's extremely important. It was the same with any CRM system, clearly it's the same with AI. And, I think that in some ways, AI systems potentially maybe where CRM was 10 or 15 years ago, with people still trying just to run before they can walk. And so I love the idea, but now where CRM is, charities are far more aware of where they're going and what they're doing with it. So hopefully that'll be the same as AI progresses.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And one of the things I keep thinking is when there's new technologies which seem exciting, there's always a temptation to just think, well, that's going to be really useful for us. Let's just use it. Let's not really think about what exactly is the benefit we'll get. Is that aligned to the strategy that we're pursuing, or is that just something which is interesting and fun? And I think that's really important that you keep reminding yourself, what is that business case? Why am I doing this? How will I get the return on the investment I'm making?
Could not agree more. I think that's a really, really important lesson people think about.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, thank you, Ivan. That's been really interesting. And it was a great chat with Jon. So thank you for doing a little bit of feedback there. Next week, I've got Mary O'Callaghan and Rob Way from the British Heart Foundation, and they're really pushing ahead with some of their AI adoption. And so we've got some fascinating insights from them. So I look forward to that very much. And Ivan, I'd encourage you to listen in. There's some really great interviews I've got coming up.
I shall do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ivan. That was great chatting.
Welcome.